very important that you have an excellent agent on your team as a real estate investor. And a bad agent can cost you thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. Welcome to the Ryan Rice Show, where we talk about what we learned yesterday that we can apply today so that we can be better tomorrow. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. So you're a real estate investor and you've started working with an agent or two. Maybe you've done a couple deals and your agent's performance just feels a little off. And you're wondering to yourself, like, do I even have a good agent? How do I know if my agent is good or not? What should a good agent look like? I don't even know what it looks like. And therefore, how can I assess whether or not my agent is good? Well, after doing about 60 plus real estate deals in the last few years, I have learned a lot about inexperienced or new agents and agents who are very experienced and who are the best. And I put together a list of all the things that you need to know so that you can tell whether or not your agent is good or if you need to raise the standard or raise your expectation of what it is that your agent does for your business. Who am I? My name is Ryan Rice. I'm a full-time real estate investor. I spent over a decade in Fortune 30. Now I invest in real estate full time, and I share all of these lessons with you guys. So hopefully you can get the learnings without the scars. So let's jump into how you know if your real estate agent is good. The first piece is volume, and it may sound kind of intuitive, but the agents who are doing significant volume are typically very good agents. And here's the thing, agents run a business just like any other entrepreneur. In order for the agent to stay in business for a very long period of time, they have to get good. And if they're not good, it's going to be very hard or maybe even expensive in the form of ads for them to constantly get leads and then convert those leads into home sales or home purchases. And at some point, their business just won't be sustainable if they're not doing volume. And so if you see someone doing some significant volume, the likelihood that they're good is going to be pretty high. Otherwise, you wouldn't see them in that and see them doing that type of volume. And in the restaurant industry, for example, let's correlate an agent's business to a very good restaurant. You don't see shitty restaurants consistently full of people, right? The consistently full ones have great food, great service, and therefore people will continue to come back. And it's the same with agents, right? And so if you're starting, it might be difficult to get in or start working with someone who does some significant volume because in the beginning, the value that you provide them just doesn't outweigh the cost that you pull from them because you're new, right? So what's most important when you first get started is that you just start. Do a few deals. You can start to build relationships with the volume agents as you're building, as you're doing deals, because you can do things like get second or third opinion on comps or an ARV, or you can go to a local investor meetup. You can start to meet and learn who those agents are that do significant volume, and then you can start to meet them in person. And if you do get a flip and the flip that you get, you're not already, tied to another agent in terms of giving the listing, you could then do research of who does the most volume in that area. And you could reach out to that high volume agent and just give them the listing. That's a great way because you're going to, they're not going to turn down an opportunity to put money in their pocket. So getting some experience matters most at first. And so if you're first getting started, just get in, start working. It doesn't matter how experienced or how much volume the agent does. You just need to start doing deals, and then you can start to stack your team with the best agents in town as you start to gain some experience and as you start to build the amount of value that you're going to be able to give to your agents. The second way to know who the best agents are, or how to know if your agent is good. The best agents know all of the neighborhoods really, really well. And a simple way to identify who is really good is when you're talking to them about a deal, they'll say things like, oh, yeah, and in that neighborhood, once you cross Main Street to the north, you're going to want to be careful in that area because ARV drops a little bit because of X reason. Or, yeah, hey, in this neighborhood's great. Once you cross the railroad tracks, just FYI, you need to be really careful because the ARV tends to dip a little bit on the south side of those railroad tracks. I sold 4 houses in that neighborhood last year, and these are all the things to be conscious of. All right, it's going to be really hard for an agent who knows areas really well, or it's going to be really hard for an agent who doesn't know areas really well to sound like they do, because the ones who do know well, they literally just talk about their experience. They talk about what they know. They've done so much volume that because of the volume that they've done, they've learned the areas, and then they can give you that information. And that information can be really, really crucial. It can save you a ton of money. It can make you a ton of money. And it's important to have an agent who knows the areas really well. The third thing to look for in a great agent: the best agents are incredible negotiators. And they're very good negotiators because simply they've done it literally hundreds and hundreds of times, right? They've done so many deals that they've gone through the trial and error. They've learned what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, what to look for in the contracts, etc. Right? And so I want to give you guys an example. When I first got started, I worked with a brand new agent, and she was great. She had a very strong will to work. She had a great work ethic. But because she was new, she would struggle to negotiate. And every time we sold a house together, when it came time to negotiate a contract, this is typically how it would go. So, a buyer's agent, if we were selling a house, for example, the buyer's agent would be negotiating or asking questions. And whether it was with an offer or maybe after an inspection, when they would send us a request to remedy some of the items from their home inspection, or maybe with a counter offer, my agent would just deliver to me what the buying agent said to her and then would ask me what I wanted to do. And so essentially, I was the one who was doing all the negotiating, and she would tell me what the buyer's agent said. She would ask me what I wanted to do, and then I would tell her what I thought we should do, and then she would go deliver back that whatever it is that I said back to the agent, and then that cycle would be on repeat until we, figured something out. And I want to contrast that with the agents I work with now, who are incredibly skilled negotiators. And now, when our buyer's agents have a negotiation item, my agents will negotiate on my behalf without me having to weigh in. Right. And once that negotiation is over, they come and they present to me what it is that we're doing. Right. So it's like they come present to me the result of the negotiation. And what a relief that is. And not only a relief, it's incredibly more effective in terms of a negotiation strategy. I mean, imagine you're negotiating imagine you're negotiating with a person, and that person just listened to what it is that you said. They went to deliver what it is that you said to a decision maker. They would talk to the decision maker, come back to you, and then they would, tell you what they said, and you guys would try to negotiate. Or let's say that you're negotiating with someone who is savvy, and because they've done a whole bunch of deals, they respond to every one of your negotiations with good, sound arguments of their own, right? Which one is going to be tougher to negotiate with? Obviously, the latter. And you want to make sure that you're in the latter situation with your agent. And so let me give you a recent example of this. There was a house that we actually just sold last week. And in the early stage of this deal, the buying agent reached out to us and sent us a request to remedy from their home inspection. And the buying agent sent us that request to remedy 4 days after the inspection period was over. And here's exactly how that played out from my perspective, right? Here's exactly how I found out about it, what happened. So I get a call from my agent, and this is what he said. He's like, dude, this agent is crazy. We just got a request to remedy. It's 4 days after the inspection period is over. And, so he disclosed to me that we got this request to remedy. And I said something to the effect of, oh, okay, well, how did that conversation go? And he was like, oh, I told her we're not fixing anything. I told her I followed up with her several times leading up to that inspection. And I told her, now you're 4 days after and you want to submit a request to remedy. That is very unprofessional. It's not by the terms of our contract, and we're not going to fix anything. And I was like, okay, well, what did she say? And he was like, well, she said, okay. And that was it. And then she hung up. And, we just closed that deal last week. Right. And here's how that exact scenario would have played out with the first agent that I used to work with. The request to remedy would have been presented to me, and she would have asked, okay, hey, it's 4 days after inspection. I haven't talked to the agent about it yet, but what do you want to do? How do you want to handle it? Do you want to fix anything? What do you think we should do? And I remember always feeling kind of drained during those conversations because I knew I needed someone on my team who would just take care of those conversations, who would have handled them without me needing to be involved, right? I needed someone who knew that it wasn't right that we got a request to remedy 4 days after and then just took care of it, right? Because what would happen is she would present to me a problem and then I would ask a bunch of follow-up questions and then, she would say, "Well, I'm not sure," or she would have to go back to get the answers to that questions and we would just go back and forth. And so if you're working with a realtor and the realtor never negotiates on your behalf, they just bring you all of the problems of the deal so that you can solve them. It's a good sign either that they're just inexperienced or maybe they're just not a very good realtor. You need someone on your team who can negotiate, who can do it really well. And someone with that skill is going to save you and potentially make you a lot of money. And in that example that I shared, it saved us some pain and some money from having to fix stuff that, who knows, even if it was within that inspection or that, if it was within that inspection period, who knows if we would have even fixed it, but it's still at the same time, it saved us some pain, saved us some money. And the buyer still got a great house, right? Real quick, as you guys know, I just recently started this podcast. If you could give it a rating with a quick tap of the thumb, that would mean the world to me. And even more importantly, it could help spread the word to a broader audience, which in turn could help change a life. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. The fourth thing of how you will know if you have a great agent. The best agents have absolutely incredible communication. And for example, there's an agent I work with, and anytime we get an offer on one of our listings that we're doing together, he sends me a text with all of the following information, all on one text, so that I can consume the information very easily and very quickly. So and he's got like a text template, and here's what the text template, here's the information it has. It has the offer price, any closing costs that the buyer's asking me to pay, what the net offer price is as a result of those closing costs that the buyer's asking for, any appraisal gap coverage, the type of financing, how many days the inspection period has, how many days the agreement to remedy period is, if there's a home warranty that the buyer wants me to pay for and how much it is, how much earnest money the buyer is putting down, the closing date, the duration of the offer, our asking price, and how many future showings we have. All right, all on one text. He sends me this information. And I've, on the contrary, worked with agents who, when we get offers, they just hit the forward button and they say, "Hey, we got an offer. Check it out. Let me know what you think." And so now I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to try to decipher all of the important information on a 10-page long offer document. And then at the end, when I finish reading all 10 pages, I have to remember back what all of the important information was and then come together with an agent to talk about it. And there's just so much value in the agent. He has a template. He takes the 5 minutes just to compile all of the important information from the offer into a text message so that I can digest all of the necessary information very quickly. And then him and I can talk very quickly about what it is that we want to do so that we can take the next action. And so I think if I were to extrapolate this down into like a macro situation, the best agents, they just take all of the information, they make it very, very easy for you to consume so that you guys can take action quickly. But another example of, and this is that same agent, another example of his incredible communication. If we have a house that's listed together, every Monday he sends me an email that he calls a pipeline update. And essentially what he communicates on this email is all of the possible critical information about this listing that I could possibly want or that I need to know, right? And so some examples of what he includes in this email: the status of the listing, the original list price, the current list price, the last price adjustment that we made and how much it was for, what percent of the asking price is that price adjustment, how many days on market the listing has been, how many total showings that we've received, how many total of those showings, how many have we had in the last 30 days, how many have we had in the last 7 days, and how many future showings do we have. And then at the bottom, he'll comment on his suggestion of our strategy, right? So if we have a listing that's sitting on the market for a little bit, he always closes the email with a suggestion on strategy based on all of that information that he put together. And I love this because he's doing all of the work on the front end. He's doing a lot of the thinking for me. He's taking ownership over this listing and he's saying, hey, here's all of the information that you need to know. I'm going to give it to you in the most compact way possible so that you can figure out which direction that you would like to go with this listing. Oh, and by the way, here is my suggestion of everything that we should do based on all of this information. And it's just so helpful, right? I can read that email, I can get a download, I can go pull active and contingent listings if I want, and then make a decision from there. And that has been that has been very helpful. The fifth way of how you'll know that your agent is great. The best agents are great with their contract language. Here's what I mean by their contract language. Let's say that a buyer sends you a request to remedy some items from their home inspection. And one of the items they want you to fix, it says on the request to remedy, roof issues identified on page 11 of inspection, right? That's the item that's listed on the RTR or request to remedy. And let's say it's something that we're willing to fix. We're not going to just sign their request to remedy and then go fix it, right? We're going to rewrite the request to remedy, and ours will say something like, replace the 3 shingles that are damaged by hail as pictured on page 11 of the home inspection. Right. So he's always very, very specific about the actual action that we'll take to fix whatever the remedy item is. And he does that so that we don't go fix it. And then down the road, we fix it in a way that we think is fine. But then the buyer says, oh, well, I think that you should have done this. And then we get into a disagreement down the road and we got to continue to negotiate the deal. Right. He makes sure that we write very specifically what we'll do so there's no doubt on the action that we'll take in order to fix what it is that the buyer wants fixed. And then we get their signature on that. And then we go fix the request to remedy based on those items. And this has been really helpful in all of our listings. Just because we can go fix something. There's no question on how we're going to fix it. They sign off on it, and we've never had a disagreement after we've got a request to remedy signed. And I think the reason for that is because of how deliberate he is with his contract language. The sixth way that you'll know that you have a great agent, they do all of their homework on the lenders for a buyer that's submitting an offer on your home that you're flipping, right? So before you accept the offer, when they present to the offer, they're going to go do their homework. They're going to go call the lender and they're going to ask the lender a ton of questions to get to know the buyer and to understand our situation. And the agent does all of this without you asking, right? The agent should just do this. This is part of kind of their routine. So here's how this typically looks for me. We'll get an offer. The agent will call me a little bit later and he'll say something like, hey, just got off the phone with the lender. The lender said the buyers are very qualified. They've already pretty much pre-underwritten them. We're not going to have any issue with financing at all. Or sometimes it might look like, hey, I just got off the phone with the lender. Just FYI, I have worked with this lender before, and they have a bit of a reputation for, number one, not making the closing deadline. And then there was 2 deals where I worked with them and they weren't able to close the loan. And so then based on that or their conversation or experience with that lender, we can make a decision as to which offer we accept, right? Let's say we have multiple offers and one of them is that lender that I just described. Well, I'm going to be a lot less inclined to choose that offer. And that is really important. So any agent that is doing their homework with lenders can add a ton of value for you. And so on every offer that we're thinking about accepting, my best agents are going to call the lender. They're going to get crucial information for us on the buyer to give us the confidence that we need that buyer is going to close, that the loan is going to get done. And then that agent will communicate that to me so that we can move forward in the right fashion. And the last thing that I put together for you guys that I wrote down on how you know if your agent is good. They are the facilitator of your deal, right? So they keep communication going with the lender. They're constantly in communication with you. They facilitate what's needed with the title company. The deal moves forward as a result of the actions that they take and the people that they talk to. And so I'll give you a quick example on a recent deal that we just sold last week. The day before we were supposed to close on the sale of a flip, the lender called my agent and said that there would be some delays for whatever reason, right? The day before. And up until that point, there was no indication from the lender. My agent had been in communication with the lender, everything was good. So my agent flipped out on this lender due to his lack of communication, asked the lender a million questions, got to the bottom of exactly what was going on. And as a result, the lender drastically increased his communication going forward. And even after later on in the deal, the lender at one point actually told my agent, like, look, we have this problem. The deal's dead. You know, the lender told my agent the deal was dead. But as a direct result of my agent's efforts, his constant follow up, his constant communication, we actually got the deal closed. And honestly, without my agent on that one, we probably would have had to throw that house back on the market, would have costed me thousands in holding costs, and it just wouldn't have been ideal. But thank God that my agent is very, very good at what he does. He had lots of creative ideas. He did a lot of diligence, asked all of the right questions. The lender then realized that maybe we could still keep this deal alive, and we ended up getting it closed. And while my agent was not very happy about his experience with that lender, I am very happy with my experience with that agent, and I will absolutely continue using that agent. He is incredible. And the fact that he got that deal done and we closed was a direct result of the hard work that he put in is a perfect example of how good of an agent that he is. And honestly, if I had an agent that wasn't, half as good as him, we probably wouldn't have got that deal closed. So I'll close with this. It is very, very important that you have an excellent agent on your team as a real estate investor. And a bad agent can cost you thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. And whether it's due to not knowing the area, lack of negotiation skills, not writing request to remedy in the right way, so you continue to get in arguments down the road. These are all things that you can look for in your agents. Or maybe even you can take some of what we just went over and train your current agent. Maybe your current agent wants to be really good, but doesn't implement some of the strategies or the tactics that we just went through. And you can just train them on making sure that they do those things. And as a result, their business as a realtor is going to get better and improve because you help train them on that. And your business as a real estate investor is going to improve because they do those things and they're adding that value to you. So I hope that was helpful to you guys. Those are a lot of the lessons that I've learned about real estate agents compiled into a small list. And I hope that brought you guys some value. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your time and attention. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.